second area to concentrate on is conduct respecting the use of corporate resources. And there are 4 subheadings here listed for you in the Code of Conduct. First is as it relates to charitable activities. The second is as it relates to office budgets and resources supporting community activities. Third is the use and commitment of city resources. And the fourth is the conduct respecting election campaigns. Members of council serve their community in a variety of ways. It is accepted and I believe recognized that the work that you do in the community is vitally important and in fact contributes to the overall vitality and health of our community. It's probably worth noting and reiterating, although again I'm sure this is a refresher for members of council, that the Municipal Act specifically says that Mayor Fennell has additional duties in this regard. That the mayor is to promote public involvement in municipal activities, to act as the representative of the municipality both within and outside the municipality, locally, nationally, and internationally, and to participate in and foster activities that enhance the economic, social, and environmental well-being of the municipality and its residents. This section of the Code of Conduct has been written with that appreciation that each one of you performs vitally important community service. So the Code of Conduct would have an agreement that members of council are community leaders who assist and support charities, service clubs, and not-for-profit community-based organizations in a variety of ways. And there are some listed here for you, but of course these are not exhaustive. It can be that you accept an honorary role. It could be that you lend your name to an organization or event to assist in fundraising. It could be that you encourage community donations to registered charitable, not-for-profit, or other community-based groups. And it concludes with the understanding and agreement that when you are supporting community activities, it still requires transparency with respect to your role and with respect to your involvement. We have also provided additional detail with respect to office budgets and the allocation that you are given on a term basis. Members of council will know that subject to budget approval, you are given an allocation and you are free to use that in what is the exercise of your responsibilities and to use your judgment to do so. The Code of Conduct says in this regard that you will respect and uphold the city's policies that guide the members' use of city office budgets and resources in support of community activities. We have, rather than what some municipalities have done, and that is to embed an expense policy right into a Code of Conduct. As an alternative, we have updated and refreshed the policies, expense policies for the mayor and members of council, and those are attached, Mayor Fennell and members of council, to the council report before you and are recommended for approval today. The expense policy is intended to provide guidance related to office, business, and to travel expenses, and it encompasses and replaces previous policies. The revised mayor and councillors' expense policy reinforces the city's continued commitment to provide the highest standard of public accountability while using public resources. With respect to the conduct of elected officials in the assignment and commitment of city resources, again, it's the statement that and agreement that the powers of the municipality are exercised by council as a whole. And that, of course, comes directly from the Municipal Act. There's also a provision that members of council will agree that items or tasks or actions that require the commitment of significant time or city resources will first be approved by either committee or council. And that, members of council, Madam Mayor, is intended to ensure that the business of the corporation is going to be advanced in a methodical and comprehensive way, and that we ensure as a staff team that we are serving the interests of all of council. That, of course, does not mean that where you have individual requests related to a service or item or particular issue in your ward, of course, those things go without saying that we, of course, will provide assistance. But if you have a task or an action that would involve and is of interest on a citywide, corporate-wide basis, then respectfully we're suggesting in the Code of Conduct that that would need to come through committee or council for approval first. Number 15 is a bit of a refresher for you. It is the understanding that while serving as a member of council during a municipal election, many of you will choose to be a candidate as well. And it is specifically listed in the code that you agree to uphold the Municipal Elections Act and all applicable legislation while acting as a candidate while continuing to fulfill your role as a member of council. There is also agreement that members' election campaigns are prohibited from using corporate resources, both real property and staff, to avoid the perception that the city has provided an advantage to a member of council over other candidates. And finally, it is the agreement that the city clerk will manage the municipal election process, ensuring that all candidates are treated equally and similarly. Third section in the Code of Conduct is respecting gifts, hospitality, and benefits. And this is one where I know that members of council often struggle understanding that in the day-to-day course of your job, you will, because of activities of protocol or social obligation, often in good faith be asked to accept a gift, a hospitality, and a measure of an organization's esteem that they hold you in. In recognition of that, the Code of Conduct says and agrees that gifts, hospitality, or benefits of nominal value are part of your role as a member of council and are received in good faith by you and you alone as a form of protocol or social obligation. It also, again, to reaffirm that our goal is to achieve the highest ethical standards here in our Code of Conduct. It's an agreement that gifts and benefits received are a matter of public record and subject to disclosure. And in the Code of Conduct, there is a recommendation that members of council keep track and list the items that you might have received in your day-to-day activities and to be prepared to disclose those as a matter of public record. In terms of compliance and interpretation, the code says that should council today exercise its discretion and appoint an interim integrity commissioner, which we'll get to in a moment, this Code of Conduct and all applicable legislation, so the binder and the annotated act, 3 acts that have just been distributed to you, will serve as the foundation documents for the purposes outlined in the legislation. It's also important to note here that the Code of Conduct is a standalone document, and it is a living document, and it is subject to update and refresh as the legislation changes and as the expectations of members of the public might change. So that is the Code of Conduct. Should members of council agree and approve the Code of Conduct today, then it serves as the foundation for council to appoint an integrity commissioner. It is important to note here that, again, the recommendation of staff and the acknowledgement of staff is that we are trying to strengthen and complement the existing legislation, rules, and policies that already exist, and are recommending consideration of an office of the Integrity Commissioner on an interim basis for a period of up to 1 year. The Office of the Integrity Commissioner provides, in an independent manner, multiple services, including advice and education. The Integrity Commissioner serves as an advisor to council with respect to your obligations under the Code of Conduct and the application of other policies and procedures that guide the ethical behavior of members of council. The Integrity Commissioner also is responsible for investigating complaints received from individuals who believe that the Code of Conduct has been breached. I would add that although the Integrity Commissioner can be and would serve as a trusted advisor to a member of council, they do not provide independent legal advice. Members of council who would desire or feel the need to do so would still be counseled to do so. Establishing the Office of the Integrity Commissioner would mean that we would be having someone responsible for receiving, assessing, and where appropriate, investigating complaints. The Integrity Commissioner would independently determine whether and how an investigation would be conducted. And if a breach of the Code of Conduct is confirmed, penalties under the legislation include a reprimand or suspension of remuneration paid to that member of council for a period of up to 90 days. And that is prescribed in the legislation. We expect that the Integrity Commissioner would want to adopt a complaints protocol for receiving complaints. When we were doing our investigation, most municipalities have retained the services of an individual. In our estimation and recommendation, what is really needed is a comprehensive continuum of service that provides maximum trust and accountability to members of the public that complaints that they have are going to be handled in a careful and expeditious manner. We believe that the development of an office of the Integrity Commissioner as opposed to a sole Integrity Commissioner performing that role would be desirable to complement what the city already has in place in terms of our public complaints process. After careful consideration and after benchmarking, we are recommending that ADR Chambers serve as the city's interim Office of the Integrity Commissioner. ADR Chambers and some of their services that they provide are documented for you in your council report. They are an internationally recognized firm that provides alternate dispute resolution mechanisms and resolutions. They are world-renowned and highly used by lawyers, professionals, by the courts to bring people together where there are disputes. The ADR Chambers currently has offices across Canada. There is one in Toronto, and they have a number of services that would be of potential benefit to our city. First is to provide the services of no less than a former judge who would serve as the interim Integrity Commissioner and be accountable directly to this council. Second, a lawyer called to the Bar of Ontario who would report to the Integrity Commissioner and who would be trained to consider the nature of the complaint, whether the complaint could be resolved informally or perhaps through existing channels here at the city, or whether the investigation or complaint was of such a serious nature that the Integrity Commissioner was in fact required.